The Seattle Seahawks got outplayed and outcoached by the New York Giants and lost. Welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Sports Show, where we love Seattle pro sports. I'm your host, Mikey, and today we are talking about that loss on Sunday to the New York Giants. And then later on, because it's such a short week and I'm recording this episode late, we will do a preview for Seahawks versus 49ers on Thursday night. All right, so yeah, let's talk about that loss to the New York Giants. I mean, it was just straight up embarrassing. It to the point where, it is making us ask questions about this Seahawks team now. To, to the point where we're wondering how real was those first 3 weeks, where you went against a rookie quarterback in his first game. You went up against a Patriots team who's not very good and had, who they've already benched the quarterback that you went up against, a Dolphins team who was down to their third string quarterback. You kept it close against the Lions, but you still lost, and it was, a horrible defensive performance, and you got another one of those against the Giants. So what's real, right? I mean, that's where we're at. We're asking ourselves, is this team legit? And I mean, at this point, if you ask me, we don't know. It's still early. We've played 5 games. We're 3-2. We're still leading the division, and we just don't know enough. We don't know enough about these players. We don't know enough about this coaching staff. We're learning some things, but we don't know. Right? We don't have the full picture yet. We might be close. The closest thing I think we're getting a full picture of is this defense. And you gave up 129 rushing yards to Tracy. A backup. You gave up 122 yards receiving to Slayton and a touchdown. Again, nothing special. And you allowed Daniel Jones to look like a decent quarterback. And yeah, it just has me asking a lot of questions about this defense, and do they really have the talent? Okay, and I understand they're still dealing with injuries, and we ended up with some more injuries in this game as well. But this just, it looks like a trend. It's not it's not looking like Mike McDonald came in here, and game 1, his scheme is just the answer to everything. Now, it's still on the players. The players have to perform. And then, if we do talk about the coaching side of things, how ready are opposing coaches for what Mike McDonald's going to bring? He's been on the upswing and trending for the last couple of years. Everybody knows this defense he's running and how he wants to run it. Is it already getting figured out? Does he need to change something up? Does he need to throw a little more wrinkles into what he's doing? Because throughout this game, I'm watching and we're still saying, okay, he's just doing what he normally does, right? He still just wants to rush four. He still wants to run zone coverage behind it, and and then just this game specifically not making adjustments. I mean, you can't let Slayton get that many yards, right? So, yeah, was it a good game from Trey Brown? No. So maybe there should have been an adjustment made during the game. Look, I get Devin Witherspoon. He can play all over the field, right? So if you feel like you have somebody on the outside that can cover somebody other than Devin Witherspoon, then you say, okay, I really want you to cover the slot so that we can use you to either blitz, we can use you to cover a tight end, we can use you to cover the slot, whatever. So you put Devin Witherspoon in the nickel. But where was his bread and butter made? Remember, he had never played in the nickel position before coming to the Seahawks last year. Throughout his college career, he had only played as your traditional number one shut down outside corner. So we know he can do that, and we've seen him do that at the NFL level as well. And I get the temptation to want to use him in all these different spots because you can do so many things with him. But if you see one of your guys getting torched, then maybe you make that adjustment in game and say, you know what, Witherspoon, you have so many different unique abilities, but we know that you have this elite ability to cover on the outside. Why don't you just focus on that for us this one game? So you got to be willing to adjust what you're doing in game if something's not working. Clearly, our rush defense, I mentioned it before this last game. I mentioned all these things that we need to do if we wanted to win, and pretty much the opposite happened, right? I mean, our rush defense still not there. I recently heard Brandon Meebane on G. Scott's podcast, right? And the Reset, that's what that podcast is called. And Meebane was talking about how when that defense was doing what they were doing, they had to communicate, but then they could also just communicate without communicating, and they just knew each other. Meebane talked about how it was a point where he could see exactly the way somebody was lined up on his own team, that he knew what they were going to do. He knew if they were going to try to cheat on something, and he would know, okay, I need to adjust for what that guy's about to try to do on this play. And this team, it's a new team with new coaches, so we don't have that here yet. And unfortunately, we've had so many injuries. Remember, the linebackers that they brought in, they basically didn't play in the preseason. And then we've had injuries all across our defensive line to those linebackers as well, where they're not getting that time on the field together to learn that about each other, right? Because that's the only way you're gonna find those things out, is getting those reps together and becoming familiar with, okay, what does this guy like to do? And oh, I notice when he's got his leg back a little bit more, that means he's gonna try to do this move. Or when he lines up his stances a little bit wider, I know that he's going to try to hit this move. So that means I know I need to adjust my play to make sure that everything is being covered the way it needs to be covered. This gap is being covered where it needs to be covered. And this team is not there yet. This is a young team, a team that is not experienced with playing with each other, and it's showing. And then On the other side of the ball with Ryan Grubb, oh my goodness, he just did not want to get K9 touches, whether it was rushing or passing. Right? I mean, in general, we got to get K9 more touches, and I know Ryan Grubb. At his press conference said he knows that and that it's his fault, and he's gonna, keep that in mind and make sure that he gets K9 more touches, and that's great. I hope that's true, but until we see it, on a consistent basis, we don't really know if that's going to be the case. Again, remember, going into this season, what was one of the things I was most worried about? It was the coaching staff not having the experience. Again, nobody on this coaching staff has any experience at the NFL level doing what they're doing. The head coach, no experience as a head coach at the NFL level or at any level. We got offensive coordinator, no experience at that position at the NFL level. Defensive coordinator, no experience at the NFL level. And then the other thing I'm noticing at this game, Mike McDonald, great communicator, great teacher, is what we hear. But is he a good motivator? That's something we still have to find out. Now, those first 3 weeks, I'm sure it's easy because you're feeling good, you're winning. Now we've gotten 2 losses in a row, and you saw it in the sideline in this game. Players had their heads down, they were looking frustrated, and I didn't see it like I saw with those Seahawks teams that we were used to seeing 10 years ago, where there's players rallying around each other, where you see coaches rallying players, getting in a huddle and trying to pump each other up. Is this coaching staff is that something that they can do? Is that in their skill set? If not, are they aware of that, and are they going to players on the team and letting them know, hey, I need you to be my voice on the sidelines to these units, and going to those leaders and being like, I need you to make sure everybody's staying in the game. And have this coaching staff, they're so young, they're so new here. Have they figured out who those players are and who's going to fit that role? We're going to be finding this all out throughout this entire season. This was a frustrating loss, and the farther we get away from it, the more frustrated I'm getting. Actually, some people might be coming away from it, farther away from it, and feeling less frustrated. I'm getting more frustrated because I'm like, man, that was a chance to beat a team that you should beat because they have way less talent than you, and they were missing talent as well. Their top talent they were missing their top receiver, missing their top running back, and you missed that opportunity. You missed, especially knowing now that the 49ers lost, because you had a chance to be 2 games up on them going into this Thursday night game, whereas now you're 1 game up, and if you end up losing that game, then you're tied, and then that means 3 losses in a row, and then now you're really asking a lot of questions, right? I don't want to quite move on to the 49ers game yet. I do want to point out some positives. Geno Smith still looked great in this game. He almost led us to a comeback. I mean, there was a point where he took that big long run at the end of the game, and I thought, oh man, this is the Seahawks. This is going to feel like the Seahawks that we are used to. That even in a game where they're struggling, they come back and they find a way to win in the end. Unfortunately, that was not the case, but I felt like Geno was doing enough that was, that for a minute there, I had that feeling. And Geno was really the only one that was playing up to that level that was giving me that feeling. So that was a positive. I said I wanted to name some positives, but I'm trying to find more other than that, and there's not there's not really any. I mean, DK lost another fumble. That can't keep going on. Again, just going back to coaching again, I'm all over the place now because, uh, you know, uh, uh, we're recording this a couple days later, and I don't have any notes from the game because I was busy at a function. So again, I was just watching, not taking notes or anything. But the coaching, right? Mike McDonald. Sometimes, come on, take those points. We've seen it work against him a couple times now, where he's been aggressive, trying to get extra points or trying to go for it on fourth down, and then you put your team in a pressure situation, right? Where you come away with no points, and then your defense, which hasn't been performing, you're putting pressure on them to definitely get a stop, which didn't happen. So then when that doesn't happen, then you're down by 2 possessions. I mean, sometimes take the points, and try to keep it, a 1 possession game. And I know there's a lot of analytics out there that say, oh, you should go for it on fourth, more than 50% of the time it's successful. But analytics, I don't think they're really caught up yet. We don't have enough data. I mean, people used to, it used to be you would be more successful on fourth down because it was a surprise, right? And teams wouldn't always be ready for it. As teams go for it more and more often, I bet these analytics are going to change, and it's going to go down because it's going to be more expected. It's not going to be a surprise anymore. It's not easy to get yards in the NFL, even short yards. So I don't know. When you got the opportunity to take points, sometimes you just got to take them. So we'll see. Again, a lot of things about this game that were just frustrating to the coaching, that didn't make adjustments, didn't seem to have a good plan going into it. To the big issues that we have with the offensive line, the issues that we had in coverage in this game. It was a lot. And how is this going to carry over into the 49ers game? Oh my gosh. Again, I'm going to try to keep this going the way I did the last game. I want to do a prediction for the Seahawks winning, and I want to do it as here's what we need to do to win. And basically, it's the same thing as last game. And hopefully they actually come out here and do it this time, because that's what I see against this 49ers team. They're also dealing with a lot of injuries. Again, you got to establish the run. I understand that Mike McDonald said, and Ryan Grubb said, they wanted to get Geno going early because they feel like, when Geno's going, the team's got a good chance. That's great. But you got to get some runs in there early, too. You got to get your offensive line some confidence as well. You got to get K9 touches and then get him some confidence, right? You just have to make that happen, because you're not going to beat the 49ers without a rushing attack and without some play action to help Geno Smith out, right? I mean, if a defense like the Giants, like you said, they had a good defensive front, right? And that was the thing. Don't let them get their confidence back against you. But what you did, you dropped back 40 times throughout the game. You only rushed the ball with your running back 7 times total. Only 5 with K9 and 2 with Charbonnet. So most of this game, the Giants knew they could just pin their ears back and rush at the quarterback. They didn't even have to worry about, you know, delaying a step to make sure the running back wasn't running by him. And again, we're going against a 49ers team that they can be pretty aggressive, right? So a good way to counter that is to run it right at them. That's just old school common sense knowledge. So use it, do it. That's something we're going to need to see out of the Seahawks if we're going to beat the 49ers. We're going to need to see Geno continue to play at the level he's been playing at this year. And then defensively, yeah, we got to get something going. And again, it's not looking good. On the injury report, right? We're having Nuosu went back on the injured reserve. So again, that's not good news. So we're already out Nuosu. Thankfully, it's not the same injury as he had last time. So, hopefully he's able to come back after the 4 weeks. But this game's still missing Nuosu. Byron Murphy still out. Rick Woolen is going to be out for this game. And then questionable, Derek Hall, Julian Love, and Boye Mafe all questionable. Hopefully they all play. But that's not a great sign. All right, you're out your top cover corner, and what are you going to do again? So now I'm really wondering how, I'm going to be really watching this game. How are they going to utilize Devin Witherspoon? Are they going to make sure he's covering whoever's the number one receiver that they need to feel like they got him covered, whether that's Ayuk or Debo or whoever, Jennings, whoever. And then what are you going to do with Trey Brown? Is he going to be out there starting, or is this going to be competition? I guess we're going to find out when the game starts what they decide to do with that. But yeah, this team defensively, they need to communicate. They need to play together. We know how important that is in Mike McDonald's system. We need to see the defensive line staying true to the gaps that they're supposed to be filling. We need to see the linebackers in behind him coming up and attacking. Any rush plays that they might be going for and hitting them and tackling. Mike McDonald said on the radio that they practice tackling and form tackling every practice, and that's not a good sign if they're practicing it every day and this is the results we're getting in their tackling, because it's horrible. It's horrible. They're missing tackles. They're taking bad angles. They're not wrapping up. This is fundamentals. They need to do the fundamentals, and they're just not doing it. It's that last game was a tough watch, and I'm afraid this next game is going to be a tough watch too if we don't do these things. But if they do them, you could get a win over the 49ers, who again, they themselves have a plethora of injuries, right? So and they're dealing with their own drama, right? They're 2-3. This is a team that they're thinking they could get back to another Super Bowl, and they're starting out 2-3, and they got a lot of drama going on there. Maybe their head's not fully in the game. You got to take advantage of that. Again, if you could have got a win in the last game, then you'd be ahead of them even if you lost this one. But that wasn't the case. So you have a chance still, though, to really make them question themselves. If you get a win here, you're 4-2 and they're 2-4. They're really the opposite way, right? And then they're really asking questions of themselves. Oh, did we sign the right receiver? Did we give him too much money? Do we really have the right quarterback? Is this coaching staff? Can they really bring us to the promised land and get us a win there and not choke it away? You know, you want to get a win here and make them question these kind of things so that you have a chance to win this division. If you lose this game, anything could still happen. But if you lose this game the way you lost to the Giants, where you're just getting trampled, where you're getting beat all game long in every phase of the game, where you're getting out-coached, you're getting outplayed, you're getting out-hustled, then that's really going to give the 49ers confidence, and maybe they feel like, hey, maybe we're still going to win this division, and we're going to do it handily. Again, don't let your team be the team that a team builds their confidence back up with. My goodness. Yeah. That's what I got to say about that. I mean, if I give a prediction, again, if we do what I think we need to do to beat this game, I think this is a lot lower scoring game than some of our games have been. If we win this one and we do what we need to do, we actually play run defense. Again, if Maffei's back, Hall's back, Love is still there, then maybe that all helps fix some of these things. So if we're able to do that, then again, you should be able to hold this team down a little bit. This team's still very talented, so I'm not going to say that you can totally hold them down. But let's say you hold this team to 2 touchdowns, you hold them to 14 points, you get a defensive battle, and our offense, again, even with like the lack of good offensive line play, we still have great quarterback play going on right now. Our receivers are, as a whole, as a unit, is elite. K9 still has that special ability, right? So if you get him more touches like we're hoping to see in this next game, then this team still has the capability of putting up points against a team even like the 49ers. And I'll say you get 3 touchdowns on them. You win this one 21-14. So I will predict a win. And like I said, that's because that's what I want to do. I'm a fan. I'm predicting a win. I'm telling you what we need to do to get that win. If we don't do those things, we're not getting the win. I mean, you saw how bad it was against the Giants. And some people will say like, oh, well, we almost had a chance anyways. And we, the refs didn't allow, everybody's thinking that field goal kick, that block shouldn't have been allowed, right? And it turns out in the rules it is allowed. It's crazy, even that's a rule. I usually know the rules like really well, but yeah, that one even confused me. I was like, didn't we stop this? I mean, I'm a Seahawks fan. I know they stopped this because we were the ones doing it. Well, it turns out there's all kinds of insane specifics that they wrote into this rule, right? Like you can jump over the line if you're not getting a running start, and as long as you're not jumping over a player but you're jumping through a gap, and you can hold a player down as long as you're not holding them down by their head or neck. If you're holding them down on their back, then it's okay. I was like, wow, there was a lot of specifics in there that the Giants were able to take advantage of, and apparently they knew this. Their coach said they knew this was the case because this happened to them last year. So that's how they knew hey, this is how we can get away with doing this. And they were, so you got to give it up to them. They again, they outcoached us. They knew something we didn't know, and they were able to take advantage of it. Now, I don't know. It's frustrating, right? I pretty much, I finished it. We gave it a prediction for the 49ers on how we can get a win and what I think the score will be if we win. So let's just go with that. Let's go with Seahawks getting a win over the 49ers. We get back on the right track, and that will also tell us a lot about this team. I felt like this loss against the Giants told us a lot about the players on this team not being prepared. And was that because the coaches didn't do enough to get them prepared on a short week? Well, we got an even shorter week this week. And, were the coaches not able to make sure that these players were staying in the mindset of this game and staying motivated for this game? Right? But can they do that now after 2 losses? Does the coaching staff get in there and really make sure that these players are motivated to get this win? Because again, this could be a huge swing for you if you get this win, not just for this season, but going forward, of letting everybody know, hey, we really are looking to take over this division once again. And really make the 49ers feel like, oh my gosh, our window, it's closing. I want to be the team that does that to the 49ers. That really makes them feel like the window is closing. I don't want to be the team that gives them some confidence back and then makes them go back over to the window and be like, oh, no, this thing's wide open. Let's open this thing all the way back up. All right. Let's get this win. Come on. All right. That's going to be this episode. Kind of rambled there at the end just because, just still thinking about this last loss just gets me flustered. Like I said, the farther away we get from it, the more frustrated I'm getting. And again, we're going to keep coming back to this game throughout the season as well. If we end up missing the playoffs, or if we end up like just barely not winning the division, we're going to look back to this game and say, how did we lose to the Giants with Daniel Jones, who was also missing his top receiver and his top running back? Okay, all right. I'm done talking about it. Let me know how you felt about that loss, and let me know how you feel about our chances against the 49ers in the comments. Okay, and yeah, thanks for listening to the Seattle Sports Show, where we watch legends awaken. So take cover, because with this sea of sound, you will see us rise to reign supreme and win forever. Go Hawks.